Hi friends, welcome back. My name is Vicki-Lynne. This is Cooking Vegan with Vicki. Today we're making butternut squash soup. This is part of my meal prep that I'm doing this weekend. And I've actually already baked the butternut squash and we're just letting it cool. And so now what I'm going to do is, because I'm going to do it all in my Vitamix, I'm actually going to brown my onions and the garlic in a frying pan. So we're just going to cut up the onion. I'm going to do relatively small pieces just to let it cook a little bit faster. Okay. And it doesn't have to be perfect because we're blending it. I just want it to be, let me put my frying pan on. One of my favorites. So we're going to put this in the pan. And we're going to water saute this so we're not using any oil. There we go. Let's get a little bit of water. So we're just going to add a little bit of water and we're going to let this cook down. Just to become translucent. Then I'm also going to add in some granulated garlic or minced garlic, but first we're going to let the onions get going. In the meantime, I'm going to grab the squash. So we actually have two recipes that we're using with our butternut squash. Ooh, that turned out beautifully. And this was all stuff. So we did the butternut squash, we did some spaghetti squash, a beet, and some sweet potatoes all in the oven, so you didn't have to babysit it, you just had to put it in. Because we're using it for soups and for our mac and cheese, we didn't need to chop it up, so that was a time saver. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start just letting this cool a little bit more. And we're going to start putting this in our blender. So if you don't have a high-speed blender, if you have an immersion blender, that would work really well. Even a regular blender, I mean, this soup can be chunkier. It's totally however you prefer. It's your soup. Don't put the skin in there. Mind you, with the Vitamix, that would blend it right down anyway. I do love my Vitamix, and actually I just saw that Vitamix just came out with a food processor that fits on your base, and I'm super excited to get one, because if it's anything like my blender, it'll be fabulous. So keep an eye out for that. If anybody sees any sales for it, let me know. But I've seen a few demonstrations on it and it looks absolutely wonderful. And then don't forget, we're going to save some of our butternut squash for our mac and cheese. And that recipe is also coming. Now we're going to add a couple of teaspoons of, I like mine garlicky. I like to balance out the garlic because I find that butternut squash soup is sweet. So we're going to just balance that out with a little extra garlic, but I've been known to have this soup for breakfast. So good with pumpkin seeds on top of it. And so to our blender, we're going to add the secret ingredient, which I love in a lot of these recipes, which is a little bit of white miso. We're just kind of getting the salt, not getting a lot of there's no salt in it, there's no salt flavor. And then I'm going to add a little bit of sage, and this is going to help it not be so sweet. It'll be a little more on the savory side. And I find with sage, it's almost like, so I'm using like a teaspoon. You just want a little undertone. I'm actually going to add a whole can of the fat coconut milk. think our onions are almost ready. I'm going to give them a little bit more water. Okay, so I think that's cooked down enough. We're going to add that to our blender. Now, if you didn't want to use coconut milk, not a problem. You can just use broth. I'm going to add broth to this. And, you know, always make sure you're going to take off the center of your blender, stuff in there, and just cover it with some organic veggie stock. So you can use half of the coconut milk. Don't use any of the coconut milk. You could use almond milk instead if that's what you want. Use what you have. Again, so we're just going to slowly blend this. I'm going to start it off nice and slow. You don't want to see what I mean? All right. So we'll try. Some black pepper. It's actually really good. And I'm going to add a little bit of paprika. And then I'm also going to use a little bit of cayenne pepper. There we go. And it's just a dash cayenne pepper. We just want to kind of balance the sweet. Now we're going to try this again now that it's been incorporated. It's not as hot anymore. That's really good. So this is good to go. We're just going to put it in a container for the rest of the week. I'll make some lunches.